Welcome to the Bearded Finisher Podcast, your one-stop show for all things finishing and coatings. Your host, Zach, and a variety of industry experts will guide you through the art of perfecting your finishing and business game. From seasoned pros to fresh faces, get ready for tips, tricks, and trends to elevate your knowledge and business to the next level.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Bearded Finisher Podcast. Today's episode, we have got the awesome Aaron Moore with Moore's Refinishing out in Southern California. What's going on, Aaron?
Hey, what's going on, Zach? How you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. How you guys doing out there?
Not too bad. I'm glad you had me on this podcast, even though I'm not a bearded finisher. So
That's all right. You know, I don't even remember at some point when I had my painting company in Oklahoma, it was just Davis Painting because that was I bought my father-in-law's business.
I remember you saying that.
And I'm trying to remember. I had a guy made because I was trying to update the logo, and I built this, had a graphic designer do it for me, and it looked good. And they were like, oh, and she just by default put a bearded in there on the guy. And that just turned into, hey, look, it's a bearded finisher. And then when I sold the company and I sold the name, I was like, well, I don't want to lose my following. And then somebody's like, just do the bearded finisher. And I was like, shit, okay.
You almost had to get that beard going just for the name's sake.
Exactly. I don't think my wife, we just celebrated our 10-year anniversary, and she's never seen me clean shaven. My kids, none of them. So I don't think I could shave it. They probably would lock the doors and not let me in.
They wouldn't recognize you.
No.
And all your people who you coach wouldn't recognize you. You'd be a new page on Instagram here.
My daughter's still a little squeamish about the bald head, because I've had, just 30 days ago, I decided, the bald spot was getting too big. So I just shaved it. And
my best friend just did that recently too. And they're like, wait, who is that? Like, it took you a second because now he's just got a big beard, very similar look as you have, bald head, big beard. And you're like, okay, I know who this guy is. And you take he wears a hat everywhere anyways. So, yep, it's good to be here. I'm glad to finally get on with you.
Oh man, I'm glad to have you on. I know we've been talking offline quite a bit, and I got a hold of your book and read it, but let's jump in with just kind of let the community know how you ended up with Moore's Refinishing. How did you get started into it? What were you doing before? And let us know where you came from.
Well, I'm that high school woodshop prodigy, so I'm trying to start pushing that on my social medias a lot about getting, wood shop, metal shop, auto back into schools. I really think it's needed, especially in today's world. But yeah, I started freshman year, beginner wood shop. It was normal. I think I had to skip a year to actually do some real classes, but I know up to about senior year, I had 3 periods out of my day were wood shop. So the way I ended up, I'm in there building cabinets. I'm building furniture for friends and family, bookcases, things like that. So, but, I knew I didn't want to go to college. I knew it wasn't the path for me. We don't come from money that you have to go to college. It was just, have a plan what you're going to do after high school. And that's what, my parents put that in us, that, you don't have to go to school, but you're not going to just sit here at home. So at that point, I knew a girl in high school who started, her dad had a refinishing shop for 30 plus years. This is back in the days of AOL. I went on AOL Messenger and sent her a message like, hey, ask your dad if I could have a job. This was towards the end of senior year, trying to make that game plan to pitch it to my parents. And they basically, she ran downstairs, came back upstairs, and then, said, hey, yeah, he's looking for an apprentice because he's starting to take over from his, previous owner. He was buying out the business and needed a grunt. And that's where it started. So I got into finishing, knowing kind of the basics, because in high school, they had a little spray booth. I was spraying like clocks and stuff like that for like the beginner classes. So he would just throw me in there and put a mask on me and just say, hey, here's how you do it. So I already had an idea, nowhere near what I know now, but it was a good, entry level to know what finishing was. So, I went down, had an interview with my friend's dad over in, he was in Buena Park, not far from Knott's Berry Farm, and they specialized in pianos. So we were the high-end piano restoration company, and we also did furniture. So I know how to do all the high gloss mirror finishes, the hand rub, like satin finishes you see on Steinways. So like that's where it all started. Is get in there. I was the grunt. I swept the floors. I was outside stripping furniture and doing kind of just those basic things, maybe disassembly here and there. Like I think I did that for 3 or 4 months. Like I was nowhere near a spray booth, sander, anything like that. And kind of worked my way up from there. Like I think that's a problem of today is a lot of people come into a business at a young age thinking they're just going to run the show. And you really do have to put in that effort, that energy, that time that we all did. As I'm getting close to 40. Like us 20 years ago, we did that and beyond. Like people younger than me or older than me, they got in there and started. I think I started at $9 an hour, just being the shop grunt, and there's nothing wrong with that. Like that's how you get the information. That's how you learn, how to do this.
I mean, that's very true. I remember, like, I was raised by my dad, and my grandpa would always tell me, if you want a promotion in whether it's a corporate job or, non-corporate, you've got to do the job to prove that you can do it. So my grandpa would always say, you got to do it for free before you can get paid for it.
It's very true.
Yeah. I mean, you can't just say, I want a promotion.
You have to show the work and you have to prove yourself. And I mean, I'm a people pleaser. That's kind of what led us into Moore's Refinishing. Is the guy that I worked for. I didn't feel appreciated. I was running the operation, doing basically everything but bills and taking in the money from the customers. So it's like I was running the other two guys that were there. I was basically the shop manager, and it just at 20 years old, not a big deal. 21, started getting a little annoyed. And that's where about the time the owner of the business where I purchased, he was trying to poach me over here because he was going to retire. So it's like he tried to bribe me. Hey, come over here. I'll sell the business to you for $50,000. Imaginary amount of money. I ignored him for about another 6 months. He calls me again, tells me, okay, $40,000. And at the same time, like, I kind of like, I don't know if I want to do this anymore because of where I work, not because the work I didn't love. It was more of the situation. And, like I said, he was an amazing refinisher, but I didn't like his business practices. And I go, there's nothing wrong with going in a different direction. And I said, I think it finally was at about 23 years old. This guy was leaving here at my shop here in Garden Grove. It's been here since 1959 as a refinishing business.
Whoa.
I am now the third person to take over this business. And he told me it was $5,000. You have 30 days and the shop is yours. Let me know. And even then I was 23 years old. It was like $5,000 plus utilities, plus, deposits, down payments to the landlord. It's like, it was still a decent chunk of money. And that's like the same thing. I was with my parents at the time that live out of state, went back home, and I kind of told them, hey, this guy called me again, Butch, like he wants to sell the business for $5,000. And they're like, all right, we will loan you the money. Like it was not even a gamble. You could sell the tools, you could sell the stuff sitting in the shop and make that $5,000 back if it didn't work out, and that's how it started. And like we were talking about being the grunt and being a hard worker. I was working 9 to 5 at the piano restoration company, coming here from 6 o'clock to midnight, doing odds and ends, like maybe just cleaning the shop because I didn't have any work that week, just doing minimal things to just make enough to pay the $1,300 a month rent. Like that's all that really mattered. Pay the bills, keep it open. Like that was the goal. And just like I said, over time, it was maybe I was working like 6 hours a night here. Then it was working Saturdays and Sundays. And eventually I was working 7 days a week for another guy and my own shop. And finally at about 8 months, I kind of felt like I got the door. I got kind of pushed into it that I'm going to just go on my own. And 14 years later, here we are.
Wow. So you said your parents are out of state. Are you originally from California or?
Born and raised? Yeah, they left California about 18 years ago now. They fled to southern Utah. bought some property, got some land, and just got away from the Southern California, rat race.
Yeah, well, yeah, I can see that. I heard there's a lot of people moving up to that southern Utah. They say it's really pretty, and I mean, it's a little more, shall we say, tax friendly.
Yeah, and we would love to do it too. Like we're working on stuff like that. It's a possibility one day, but it's the same thing now. My clientele is here now. I got into social media. That's where I met you. We start talking on Instagram a lot, and now I've kind of created a brand for my business that I get customers from northern Utah. They send me stuff down. I get customers from like the San Francisco area shipping it down to me. I mean, I've had customers FedEx boxes from New York to have us restore it so we could ship it back to them. So it's like now we've created a brand with our social media to advertise myself to the world, really. And now it said there's people that are in Utah that may want to use me, but they're like, yeah, you're too far away. Like if you move to Utah one day, like, oh, now there's clientele there and there's out of state money moving in. Now it may not be an impossible thing one day, but I said that's maybe in the future. Right now, it's just getting everything else established and this new venture that we had been working on.
What's interesting to me is I through the years, I still father-in-law and I still talk a lot, and I can't remember when it was I asked him. I was like, so, I mean, he started worked for a painter during the day in Colorado and Vail, and then did his own stuff at night. And then he started a cable company, sold the cable company. He's always been an entrepreneur. So I just asked him, I was like, as an entrepreneur, what is the one thing throughout? I mean, he's 72, still active, but what's the one thing that you think changed the game for entrepreneurs? And he still to this day, he will not waver. It's the cell phone. Like, he was like, the cell phone was the biggest game changer. You weren't at home, and it's hard for us to even imagine, but he's like, I'd come home at 5:00 from running jobs, and I'd spend the next 3 hours returning voicemails and scheduling estimates because you couldn't do it in your truck because you didn't have any.
It's a good and a bad thing though. Like, I'm still real old school because of the way I was trained. Like, what I do for a living is still a very old school skill, but like mindset wise, it's just like I don't want to. It was different for in the beginning. If you didn't answer the phone and you waited an hour, that person already called 3 other people and they already have it booked. It doesn't happen to me anymore because now people are finding me from social media and they want to work with me. So that if I don't call them back for 24 hours, they're like, oh, hey, we figured you were busy. Not a big deal. Hey, could I get a quote? And now, like I said, that's changed. But that was my biggest thing with the cell phone is it's like, when I first started, we had a shop line. Like, the cell phone was out, but you called the business line. And the cell phone was just like an emergency thing back in, like I said, 2004, 2005. You would call like the main phone number. I would take a message. The boss would call them back. But yeah, probably 2010, 2011, when what was it? The iPhone came out, somewhere around there. Maybe that's when I got the iPhone. But yeah, it was the the instant gratification that the customers wanted. And you're like, well, I was on a delivery. Like,
our generation may lead more towards social media because it has taken so many small regional brands national and changed lives. I mean, that's how important I think branding and marketing on social media platforms, just the internet in general, but across these platforms, everybody know. I mean, it's just connected so many people. Think about it, if the internet didn't exist, the thought of moving to southern Utah wouldn't even be a thing. But now,
you can't move to a town with 30,000 people and expect to maintain your livelihood.
But now you can. I mean, now if you build the right brand and you do such a great job at that when it comes to, I tell my clients all the time that, and it's hard if you don't like it, but people don't buy based on the pretty pictures you post. People buy from people. They want to see the person doing the work. They want to see how that person operates, what kind of passion they have for what they're doing. And that's who people buy from. So the more that you put yourself in front of the camera and you tell people about your projects, but you are telling them about them and you're telling them about yourself, that creates that relationship. It creates that, you know, unknown bond. Oh yeah, I saw Aaron post a video about that chair. We just got that chair from grandma. We inherited it because she passed away. Let's send it to Aaron and have him refinish it. I mean, it's crazy, the psychology behind marketing.
It's like they know you before coming in, and it's a really weird place to be on this end. Is I've had people, oh, how was your vacation? How was that trip? We took our trailer, we went to Idaho, and it's just like, I don't remember, like, this is the first time I've met this customer, and they're like, oh, it was pretty good. Like, it takes you, it definitely takes a few minutes to realize, like, oh crap, like I'm putting myself on the internet for people to see my life, my family, because I'm a worker. This is what I do for a living. But I go, that's not what I want to do. Like, I want to be with my family. We like doing things, camping, boating. That's why we work, is, so we can live our lives as now a family of 5. So it just makes it a necessity. I have to work so I can fund the activities. And like you're saying that, like, I'm going to kind of point it out to everyone who's listening. If you're on the fence to just that you're scared to post on the internet, to you don't want to get in front of cameras, or you don't have the time. I was that person. And I got tired of seeing all these women on the internet, like, just dancing around and getting millions of views and making money on the internet. And I go, why can't we just show people working with their hands? Like, that's what we need to do. And I was also watching people flipping furniture and doing stuff during COVID. I'm like, what are you doing? Like, you're using Easy Bake, oven cleaner to strip furniture. I go, what are you doing?
We got to go hit on that, because I've never heard of
like,
that.
And I go, I have to be that person, I guess, to do it, because the guys, I mean, you got to think, the people I worked for and worked with in the industry, they're all gone. They're retired. They've moved. Like, the guy I worked for is in his 60s. I think he's pretty much retired. He just shop closed down. Few other people locally that were like the go-tos as well, they moved out of state or moved to like I know one moved to rural Palm Springs and bought some property and live in the desert, and they do a little bit of work. But like, in this industry now, with the internet, with the social media, put yourself out there, because there's no competition. Like, I don't feel I have competition in this industry, and you guys shouldn't either. Like, it is just there's plenty of work to go around, especially in this, if you're in a restoration world. I know a lot of people you have on your podcast do, building, refinishing kitchens, cabinets. I don't hear on the podcast a lot yet of like people who actually restore old furniture. And it's like, those people we're a few, and we're a rare breed, because you have to have a lot of patience in this industry. And I go, there's plenty of work for all of us. Like, I can't do it all myself. And then, like I said, just start today. Like I said, it's been almost 4 years now. I said 4 years ago, I'm just going to start posting every day. And I learned. I figured out the algorithm, what works, what doesn't. And if you go back 2,000 videos on my feed, and you never see my face, because I did not want to be on camera. Eventually, you started seeing my hands doing work. And then eventually it's like, okay, now I'm on screen talking to you. Then that wanted to level up. We leveled up and bought a new camera, bought microphones, set up the studio here behind me for beauty shots of the photos, or furniture, or of myself here, like doing podcasts or just content. But I go, you have to just start. Take that first step and just start posting today, once a day. It's not.
That's what I tell my guys all the time. I mean, the way I kind of got into it is kind of similar to that. I'm not a camera person, but it was talking to people who were like uber successful in social media, and just watching the ones that kept growing, and they were always on there. They're always posting about mundane stuff. So the way I got used to it on social media was every day. And I tell everybody this, just post your job site, what you're doing for the day. You do a shop walkthrough and you're on the front of the camera. I mean, it's nothing that you're not already doing. Just pick up your phone and record it while you're doing it and tell people what you're working on. And then you get used to it. And then it's not that big of a deal.
Well, and it's even easier too. It's like, buy a $29 tripod for your phone off Amazon, and then put it on there and put it on time lapse, and just have it if you're a brick like layer, when you're putting pavers down or putting bricks up on a wall or a fireplace, like, just time lapse yourself, put it to some music that's trending, and you got yourself a post. It doesn't take that long, but it is like it's a mindset, and it's hard to get past. I have those funks here too, where I don't have time to film today. I don't have time to film. Next thing you know, you're filming 3 hours of content. You're like, well, what happened to the afternoon? Like that's
Yeah.
we are learning the game still too. That like maybe we need to take half a day a week to just film content, and that'll give me enough content for 7 days.
The content is crazy. I mean, it takes forever.
Yeah, it's the editing. It's the editing that takes the time. And same thing, I financially didn't want to put money into paying someone, so I've slowly learned how to do it. My right hand man, I'm really blessed with him. His name's Ivan. He's a amateur photographer. Like he's got since COVID, he got into taking photos, doing stuff like that. And, he bought a camera. Well, he upgraded. I bought his older camera off of him, bought a new gimbal. I bought his old gimbal off of him. And now it's like, I have him here to help film my daily life here in the shop. I go, same thing though. It takes away from working. Now, him and I are both not working on the shop, but we're working on building the business via social media. So it's like, it's all work. Like, you just have to prioritize what's important. And I have, like, I kind of look back where I was 4 years ago. Like, we were busier than ever, but it's still, I had to bidding wars with people. I was like, hey, I got outbid. Like somebody bid a little lower. I'm like, oh, that sucks. Like it's, now I don't have to worry about that. It's like people want us to restore it. They know it's going to be done right. And they want the quality, and they're willing to wait. Like sometimes, like I've had wait times of 6 weeks, 8 weeks before we could even get to it. Then it comes into the shop and it's here another, just say 4, and it's like, that's what we had to do for a while. Cause I mean, during the 2020, 2021, we were one of the busiest, years that we had on record was that year. So I wanted to keep that going because it kind of, it died down. And that's about the time when I started posting on Instagram every single day.
Yeah. I've noticed a lot in the last couple podcasts, people that I've been talking to and guests, that this year is the first year where I think everyone truly realizes, not truly accepts that the COVID money's pretty much gone. Everything is pretty much about into the pre-COVID, revenue, what they were doing before COVID.
And I'm seeing that too with like all the, like I follow a lot of refinishers or furniture flippers on Instagram, and a lot of them are saying, are you guys having trouble selling your furniture? Are you having trouble? Like, I can't sell it. I have this dresser we did for, $500. I'm going to lower it to $350 and try to sell it. And I kind of laugh. It's about time in the market is what's better than money in the market. That's kind of the stock kind of saying, but it's true here in business. Is that I've gone through now. I've been doing this over 20 years, for almost 14 and a half on my own. So I've gone through 4 cycles of presidential elections. Every summer is slow. We all know that. But then every election year, right after a summer, this is how it gets. And a lot of these people on Instagram, they started in 2020. Well, guess what? This is their first presidential cycle. I sit here and laugh. I'm like, ha, ha, ha. Like, it's like I got into, trading crypto and things like that. And I'm like, well, I'm just laughing all the way down. Where's my money going? Because I go, it's done it before. Like, I take the money out at the top, and you laugh at it when it goes to zero. You're like, well, it'll turn around one day. And that's how the business is here with Refinishing. Is Thanksgiving will come. It'll get a little bit more phone calls. By Christmas, you're picking up. By the beginning of January, it's usually back to full swing. No matter who runs or wins presidency, it doesn't really matter. It's just the uncertainty. A lot of like the money in the market kind of pauses.
Money in the market, the uncertainty, and you get into, I love politics. I'm just here probably in the last 5 years, politics nut junkie, but just the uncertainty, the people not knowing what's going on, but also their focus is, you've got the media and marketing and advertising just screaming at you about candidates and this and that, and then families here for Thanksgiving. You always get that last little bump up to Thanksgiving, and then a small one usually between Thanksgiving and Christmas. And then you're probably close to dead till get through the first of the year. Usually second, third week of January is typically when everything just starts, right back like it was. But
phone starts ringing a little bit again.
Yeah.
And yeah,
like you said, all the people that started during COVID,
this is their first let's go stock wise. Like this is their first bear market. They're like, uh-oh.
They're not even used to like the dip in business because it's just been,
It has.
and now it's finally leveling out. Everything has a correction. I mean, you can't go up
and
forever.
I think it's saturated too. I mean, the 2020 market, people have done the furniture flipping. I've known a lot of actual stores, turn into business during 2020. They're selling high-end mid-century modern furniture. We restore furniture for many of them. And you're like, I love seeing that. But the same thing, they're like, oh, what's going on? It's a little slow. I go, it's every 4 years. It doesn't matter. It just write it out. Just that's why we save. You save money for these leaner times. And I go, but that's where I'm truly blessed. I'm booked probably through the holidays already. Like with the lineup I have on my little notepad and the people that still are getting quotes, I go, but that's the power of social media. Like I'm not here hunting and worrying about, is my phone going to ring? I'll get an email, 2 emails a week, 3 emails, maybe a day of, hey, I need a price. Like I need a quote for these chairs. You're not going to get every piece. That's what I'm saying. There's plenty of work out there for all the refinishers. And, if it's something you want to get into and level up, that's, I don't look at you as competition. Like let's all do this because I just want the customer to get a high end, quality piece. I hate seeing a customer go to someone else and then they call me back and the piece got ruined or it's the wrong color. I go, it really bums me out. And I'm even like the kind of business owner, if they tell me they don't want to do the job, I always give them the offer of, hey, if you have any questions in the future, if you're getting it restored by this guy and something sounds weird, shoot me an email. Like I have no problem answering you and just being like offering good customer service. And when it gets messed up, or if it does in the future, they're going to call me back and, hey, can you help me in this situation? It's happened, time and time again.
It's relationships. I mean, that's 100%. That's all it is. I mean, you may not get this one, but you lean them to the guy that gets them what they want if you can't do it. And that will pay dividends. Yeah. I mean, I used to tell painters all the time in Oklahoma, like, hey, man, guys, we don't have to fight over this work. You bid it your way, I'll bid it. But trust me, see this whole neighborhood? Every one of these houses is going to have to be painted. I can't do it all. You can't do it all. Same thing. Like every one of these houses has probably at minimum half a dozen of pieces of furniture that are family heirlooms or they've been passed down and they want to refinish. Like there's just not enough hours in the day for one company to do it.
But it also is too, maybe these people don't know what they need until they see it. So, you posting on social media, one day it connects in their algorithm. And I mean, I get so many messages about, this is the first time I've ever looked into this. Like, how much does it cost? And that's because social media, like that, by you just posting it, I'm not the kind of one, I'm not doing dancing videos on my Instagram. I'm not doing any of those kind of trendy things. I know those will go more viral and they will catch more, but I just stay true to who I am and what I want to put on the internet. But like I said, it's just really, it's I just want to see everyone succeed. Kind of like what is it? Raising tides, lifts all ships. Whatever the saying is there. That's what I want. I just want to see people be successful.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, you also got to think about. And I tell people when they're talking about, oh, this video didn't get many views or something. I'm like, hey, you got to remember, we are in a very niche community. You get 5,000 views, 10,000 views on a video about finishing furniture or cabinets. That's phenomenal.
Can you imagine 5,000 people in your shop? Like that's what finally turned my mind around. Yes. Was that.
There's a video out there that shows it's like a church or something. And it was kind of talking about that. I think I may have shared it. And it was like 1,000 people in a church, 3,000 people in a church, 5,000 people in a church listening to a guy talk. And I'm like, that's how many people saw. I mean, I've had one video go viral. I think it hit like 800,000 views. But the best part, it was a reshare of some reality TV show where these 3 Italian guys were fighting over eating off the wrong side of the pizza that they ordered.
And that's the one that got...
And it just exploded. And I didn't make it. I just shared it and put like me laughing emoji because 1, I love pizza. But 2, I thought it was hilarious because the guy ate from the wrong side and they're fighting about it. And it was just like every day I opened it and it was like, 10,000 views, 10,000 likes. I'm like, what? I don't even understand.
Yep, that's how. And you don't know either. You could post it a year from a video, not a year, but I've had videos 3 months later start taking off. I'm like, why am I getting so many new followers? And you look down, and I'm like, I don't see anything like 10,000 views, 8,000 views. I might get a 15,000 view, and then all of a sudden I'm like, oh, this one's got 97,000. You're like, oh, okay, but it was you have to scroll a ways down. And I go, it's like, because it doesn't tell you where they're coming from. It just says, like, you could get it on the back end. You can see how many, I have a few of the videos that have gone viral. Like you're saying, I've gained 15,000 followers from one video. They're like, wow, like that. I think those were like a 700,000 or 800,000 view video. Like I said, that's why the more content you put out, you're bettering your chances of one taking off. You know, you said that about your pizza video. I just talked to a guy yesterday, I think it was, and he posted a story. Why are all of our stories only getting 200 views? I have, I think he had 40,000 followers. I'm like, hey, I feel the same way. My story views on Instagram are like 300 and I have 80,000. But then he shared it again yesterday, and the post, like kind of complaining about the view count, got like 6,000 views. But it's just like, it makes no sense. He posted a thing complaining and it got more views. They're like, well, now the algorithm knows it wants you to complain more. Like, that's what I said. That's the whole thing with social media, is just don't go with the trends. Do what you want to do. Put it on your page, and you will get like the right follower for you.
Yeah,
like,
that's what you want. The key part is getting the right followers. I mean, I saw this post that was, and I've been trying to follow it, and man, let me tell you, it's tough. It was, to maintain activity and stay in people's feeds and being out there. 14 stories a week, 7 reels a week, and 2 posts.
Yeah. But that could change tomorrow.
Yeah. But trying to maintain that is, it doesn't sound that bad, but then when you're trying to, every day it's 2 stories, every day it's a reel, every other day it's a post, trying to find content. And not only that, like I have 3 pages that I manage for my other business and another one. So trying to do it times 3, it's just like, it's a lot. It's a full-time job. Just doing social media.
It is. And I'm not going to sugarcoat that with people who want to get started doing social media work.
You got to work.
It is a second job. Like if I'm not filming, I'm at home editing it, sitting on the couch. Like before we started upgrading to the computer level of editing, like sitting on my phone making a video. And same thing, I've sat down for 30, 40 minutes to make a longer set video, minute and a half with a lot of cuts, a lot of writing, and it'll get 2,000 views. And you're like, okay, I just spent an hour and it didn't really do anything. And then like I said, then you just post a 10-second, just nothing video, and there's 20,000 views. Like it doesn't, you don't get to choose what takes off. Like there's ways that you could push it, put money into it, but it's like you either put time or you put money. And right now it's like, I want to put more time than my finances into the social media, but that will change eventually. Like I want to start pushing that more. Yeah. Like you just start. Like that's really the biggest is advice that I could do it. I'm not an internet person. If you go to my personal social media, it's a few pictures a year, maybe of like a kid's birthday party or just something dumb. But I go, it's like, I can't even edit reels on my own personal page because I go, I don't know what I'm doing. It's family stuff, going boating and doing these things. I go, I know furniture reels. I know it works. I know what people want, but I go, and my personal is private anyway. So who's going to really see it? I'm not going to waste time on my own, personal page. I go, it doesn't mean anything. The friends and family that I have on there are all that matter. Like that. I'm not here to gain new followers. I go, I have a social media page for my business. And like I always said, I wanted my business to be well known. And now it's like eventually now I've learned the business is me and it needs to be my face on camera because I need to be the person to rep my brand. I mean, we were talking about the number counts, and it's like we were at a bachelor party for one of my best friends in Scottsdale, Arizona. Walking down the street, I had a complete stranger, younger guy. I think his name was Evan, and he came up and he, hey, Aaron, like thanks for posting all this stuff about your woodworking. I've learned so much from you. We thought it was some random guy just walking by at first, so we kind of ignored it. You never know, like downtown, like there's just, you never know who's around. But my buddies were like, "Oh, Aaron, it's for you." And that's when he came back up and introduced himself. And it was just, it didn't hit me till later that you're like, wow, like I'm getting recognized in public. I go, it's just a weird feeling. It's a weird feeling. And like, and you know, the night before we were sitting at the Diamondback Stadium, and I'm like, okay, this building has 40,000 people in it. Not really, because it was the Diamondbacks, but it was, you know, there's 40,000 seats here. But it was you know, I had double that on my Instagram, and I sat there thinking, like, humbling myself. What if I was sitting on the mound right here talking about refinishing? And I go, that's what I do every day. And that's when things kind of changed. About, if you go back 4 or 5 months, I start teaching a lot more on my Instagram, because that one, you know, Evan, you know, the knowledge I was putting on the internet at that point was more than enough for him. But to me, it was not enough. I was like, I'm not even giving you any of the good stuff yet. I'm just posting befores and afters or quick little time lapses. I'm not actually teaching you. And at that moment, I came back the next week. We started filming how-to videos and like techniques and things like that, because he gave me the motivation that I'm giving enough to these, you know, to the social media, you know, world, that these people were learning. Let's give them more of that. It's never going to be perfect. Yeah.
It was interesting. I was at IWF this last year when I really, you know, because the podcast kicked off and started really focusing on that and the coaching and the consulting business. And I was at IWF hanging out at the Surf Prep booth, and this guy comes up. He's like, can I get a picture? I'm like, he's like, with you. And then I was like, sure. And his wife's with him. He's like, I can't believe I get a picture with the bearded finisher. And I'm like, this is weird.
It is. And even like we'll get into that, but you know, just getting the first 150 books that we sold for the refinishing book that I did, people making reels about opening the book that I packaged. I go, it's hard for me to watch them. I go, because I go there, it's me. I'm like, there's me on the thing. And I go, it's just a weird, like, I'm getting goosebumps right now. It's just a weird place to be on this side of people being so happy that that they're seeing me in person, or like they're taking the time out of their day to post a reel. And I know how much time it takes to film that and edit it. It takes time out of their day, and it's really humbling. And I really, you know, appreciate, I mean, if they're listening, I appreciate all those videos, because it makes it worth it.
That is the perfect segue that I was getting ready to be like, hey, let's talk about the book. I mean, you just teed it up perfect for me.
There we go.
So, I mean, those of you that don't know, I mean, I'm sure a lot of you do in the refinishing world. Aaron's out there very, you know, active on social media. He has published and released now, and he's shipping copies. It's a hardbound. What's the name of the book again?
Revive and Refine is the brand, and it's the art of furniture refinishing.
It is a hardback coffee table book, presented very professionally on how to refinish furniture. I'm talking the perfect. I got a copy of it. He sent it to me, read it last couple nights. I mean, it is like 99% perfect SOP on how to refinish furniture. If you guys haven't checked it out, definitely get on a social media, get a copy of it. It's a great book. Even some stuff that, you know, like the Easy Off, like I was reading that and I was like,
yeah,
people use Easy Off oven cleaner to strip finish.
If you go back on Instagram, you know, in 2020, it was all over the place. And you're like, I don't even want to attempt this. Like, this makes no sense. Maybe it was on an oiled finish that had nothing on it anyways. But I go, that's not going to strip lacquer or polyurethane off of a piece of wood. I can guarantee that. And if it does, I don't want that in my oven.
See what's on the back of it. I'm like,
yeah, I know.
What is in Easy Off oven cleaner?
If it has methylene chloride in it, then maybe it is. But then I don't want that in my oven. Like, that's the bigger thing there.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, but yeah, I said, so yeah, I wrote a book like that. That's kind of another thing. I started Instagram, just said I'm going to do it. Doing the book it fell into place. Like a lot of you know, on my social media, I had a minor heart attack about 2 years ago. After kind of recovering that, had a stent placed, started, you know, changing diet and, you know, just eating better. I said, okay, what would have happened with all this knowledge that, that I've acquired over the last 20 years. I mean, I was trained from a guy with 30 years of experience. He trained me, and I bettered my skills because of the knowledge that he gave me. And if I would have died from, like, it was a widowmaker, so I went to the hospital in time. I'm lucky I didn't have the full blown heart attack. But I go, okay, let's start putting this on the internet. Like we were talking earlier, like the old school guys, they would have never given you this information for free. They didn't even want to give it to me. If you heard the story earlier of me being the grunt, they don't want to teach you anything, because the more you know, the more it ended up what happening. I learned everything about refinishing and then went on my own. But in today's world, with the social media, the marketing, the old school guys don't want to be on camera. They also don't want to teach it. They don't want to be on the internet. That's where the younger generation, the next generation, we're willing to do it because there's so much work out there. Just think about it as if you would have trained me. Now I'm in your neighborhood. I still live in your neighborhood. I open a business. Now we're direct competition. But in today's, like I said, I have customers all over the place, and we've talked about that already. But like I said, that's why I kind of started this book. Let's put it down on paper. Kind of, what if I would have died? I could at least give this to my employee so he knows what to do. Like maybe he wants to take over the business. Like he knows 90%. Here's that last little bit. So it was written that way. And then what ended up happening is post or pre-heart attack, I had my friend Anastasia. She messaged me on Instagram. This is why we post people. Like this is, you get to know
the relationships on the
internet.
Yeah.
She was a beautiful photographer, like high-end photography, does artsy kind of things. And she was a marketing person, but she gave all of that up because she wanted to learn how to refinish furniture and open her own furniture store. So, about right before the heart attack, I kind of like, hey, let's talk next week. Let's do that. I had the heart attack and I go, I don't want to cancel on this girl again. So it's like I had the heart attack on a Thursday, came back in on the following Monday. And I think it was like, something around there, Monday or Tuesday, because I had already booked a schedule with her. If I was thinking about canceling it again, because at that point I knew I was behind on work. I knew I was like, okay, now I've been in the hospital for a couple of days. I've healed. I'm better. Now I got to get caught up. But I go, I don't want to cancel on this girl. Like she's already put in a lot of messaging and time to get to know me. Let's just do it. So she came in and took photos to come in and learn. Kind of at that point, she realized she needed to know more than 8 hours worth of knowledge. Like this was not enough. She thought it would be. She thought she would get the basics in 8 hours. And we went through almost every step, the stripping, the sanding, spraying. I showed her everything. And then at that point, I think we went through the holidays, like through Thanksgiving, through Christmas. She was working in her garage at an apartment, stripping furniture, doing things I would tell her. And finally kind of came to me and said, okay, like that paperwork you're working on with your the SOP manual, like why don't we make this a video course? Like start writing a script. And that's what ended up, okay, sitting back in my computer in the office at home, 11 o'clock at night, working on it. Every single night we'd be there, put the kids to bed, go sit in the office, work another 3 or 4 hours, editing. Then I wrote all the content. Then I realized, okay, how are we going to give this to the people? How are we going to present it? And that's, if you read the book, it's written as if Anastasia is asking me questions along the entire process of the book.
Yeah. It has a podcast, short or long form content layout with questions and answers.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes. I mean, the design of the book is genius.
And that's all Anastasia. Like the photography is all her. I'm the model. We went through it and made it all the book. We put the book together, but it was her eye with the camera that brought that all together. And then we had a student of hers, because she was a part-time teacher at a college for the marketing department, and so one of her students helped with the initial layout. So they took my content of the book, turned it into photos, layout, like the numerical 1, 2, 3, those kind of things. She took all of the Google Docs information, put it into this. Like I said, we thought that this would have been easier than filming a video course. And it took us about 18 months from basically the heart attack till the books came into my garage. And you're like, okay, we're almost there. Read the book. I don't even know how many times I read it towards the end, because I'm almost tired of it myself. That's why seeing people comment about it is making it all worth it. Because I go, okay, I got to check for errors again. I'm the editor. I was the writer. I was the model. We'd set up the shop for photographs. Like we would come in on a Saturday and shoot. And, I gave up a lot of time and energy with the family because I wanted to give this out to, I guess, the public, the people, because there's I get
Short-term
so many
sacrifice
messages.
for long-term gains.
100%.
Something
So many
like that.
people ask questions on Instagram. How do I do this? And I would answer them all the time. And I'm like, why isn't this information out there? And that's kind of what led into, okay, I have to give it to them. Like, how do I do it? I'm going to learn. But there's so many people with the I don't know if you've seen it on your end, but there's so many people that I hear from, hey, I'm a lawyer, but I really want to quit my job and I want to get into woodworking. Like, I've had dozens of those kind of messages. I mean, Anastasia is a marketing person, was teaching in a college, and she wanted to give it up to open her own furniture store, and which she still does, but now it's a part-time thing because now she got a job again and, is back into the marketing world, but she misses the stripping furniture, sanding furniture. Like, she misses that like not sitting in front of a computer kind of thing. She really wants to be working with her hands. And that's what I see a lot of people today they were kind of told they got to go to college. They need to, get a good job, but maybe they hate it. And why not do something you love?
Yeah. I mean, life's too short to not do something that gives you a little bit of pleasure, even if it's for money.
Exactly.
So my curiosity when I get into the book and reading it, the one thing that got me, and it's the one thing I was like, I got to ask him, like, Mohawk's got great products, but do you see yourself, why still on the post-cat pre-cats versus the solvent-based polyurethanes?
So a lot of it, I just had this in my school community. Somebody asked this question this morning. Kind of funny. I guess it warmed me up for this because she was using the Duracoat, the pre-catalyzed, and asking, why do I use Finisher's Choice? And I mean, a lot of it is just, I'm old fashioned. That's what we used before. That's what I use today. I don't try new things. It's very difficult to try a new product, a new sander, and why change what works? Like, everything here operates. I've been doing it this way for 20 years. Why change it? And there are things I've learned to speed things up. But for the finishing wise, it's more in the long term is why I prefer the Finisher's Choice, because if you use a catalyzed lacquer, a polyurethane, if it's ultimately going to get damaged at some point, if it's a kitchen, like we don't do kitchens with the Mohawk, but a dining table, someone's going to set a cup on it. Well, it's a lot easier to sand it, recoat over it. Lacquer melts in with lacquer. So, and a lot with the Mohawk products, the Mohawk really melts in with lacquer better than any of like the post cats, the pre cats.
Well, the Mohawk's so hot. It's an extremely hot lacquer. There's a lot of nitrocellulose, so it does melt in, and it's a little more universally melt into other stuff as well, other brands. So yeah, I didn't think about that because it is going to get damaged, and it is going to be one of the easier and equally durable products that you can finish and then refinish without possibly causing damage to the woodwork. So that makes a lot of sense.
Or stripping it down again. And that's the thing is, like, our table at home had a beautiful table built from a friend of mine, 2-inch thick, solid walnut. And we have, at that point, 2 kids, like, destroying this table. When I realized, I go, but it's a lot. If you follow the steps in the book, you're going to have the same outcome that I do. The kids leave water cups on it. They leave their stuff, they food. A good wipe down, water rings, as long as you dry it off, like, take the cup off. Like, I see it today. You see the little like white halo, like, dry it off, come back a few hours later, it's gone. A lot of it is in the prep work. So, you want to seal the piece properly. And I get that a lot as people are saying, you're spraying a lot of sealer on, but I go, I'm also sanding a lot off. So you're sanding the sealer that, I might put 9 coats on in the beginning, but you're going to give it a good sand. Now you're back down to maybe 3 layers by the time you sand it down to get a nice smooth surface. So it's like, but it gives you that ability to, or not the ability, but you're not going to pass edges as easily. You double coat edges. You make sure, because this is all the stuff I learned from my mentor, is you double coat, because when you sand sealer, whatever the reason is, the edge goes up a little bit and you sand through a lot. Like it's common by spraying a little bit more sealer in those first few coats. It's a higher build too. I think that's a lot of it why I prefer it. The lacquers, especially with the Mohawk lacquers, you could high build them a little bit more. We had issues in the past. We've tried it was the pre-catalyzed before, And, we would do a piano, we do a high end. This is a bad mess up. We did the high end hand rub, closed grain finish. 6 months later, a customer calls back and the finish is cracking everywhere. Not knowing, like, we thought, okay, it's a harder finish. This is why it's a learning curve too. We've seen the side effects that the newer stuff, the post-cat, the pre-cat, conversion varnish, those all can only go to a certain mil thick.
5 mils.
Yep. I thought it was 3, but yeah, 3 to 5 mil.
Dry mils.
Okay, yeah.
5 dry mils is maximum film build on all.
Exactly. And I know I'm spraying more than that in Finisher's Choice. So like that's the bigger thing is I prefer to do it almost for my customers. It's the same reason when we paint furniture. We see, everyone hates furniture flippers online. I don't. I love that they're getting into this. They're building this up. They're growing this community, but I'd love to see them do a little bit better. Like that's all I want them to do. When we paint furniture, we seal the furniture first. Yeah. We seal it first. So we will put a coat of clear to give you that barrier between the grain and the primer. So 10 years from now, when someone wants to refinish it, 50 years from now, whatever it is, what I did today here in the shop is it's going to protect that next refinisher. Maybe one of my kids someday, maybe they're redoing it in the future. If they want to be refinishers and someday in the future, they don't have to worry about that wood or white paint getting in the grain.
Yeah, I mean, the big part is when you come into, and I tell people this all the time, when you're in the finishing, it doesn't matter if it's new, it doesn't matter if it's refinishing. The name of the game is to have the best prepared substrate, and that includes sealer. The better you prepare your substrate, whether it's a pigmented product or it's a clear product, you do a proper build of sealer. You make sure the grain's clean. You make sure your wood sanded. Whether if you're staining it, you open the grain. If you're just clear coating it, close that grain up so you don't get crap in there, but you seal it. It makes the top coat that much better. I mean, painters, don't get mad at me, painters, struggle with this because there's a lot of, we don't need primer. We'll just put 2 top coats on there.
Or we're getting the paint that has primer in it. And you're like, that's not,
you're just buying extra paint at a higher price. That's all you're doing. But that's absolutely it. I mean, but there's a reason that primers were invented and primers are designed to be used in SOPs from the manufacturer because they're preparing the surface for the top coat. You have to prepare the surface for the top coat. It's just plain and simple.
I'll go on to the next thing too with we didn't talk about it. Vinyl sealer. I get a lot of questions about vinyl sealer from Mohawk. We used to use it. I just don't like the way it powders up. Like that, I think it clogs the paper a little bit more. It's just a little bit more time consuming cleaning the paper off with the little boogers. I go, you let the finisher's choice dry, 8 hours. So usually I'll spray sealer. I'll come back the next day. It's fully cured. You give it a good sand. Like there are times I might spray it in the morning and have to sand it again at 3 p.m. before we leave, spray the finals at the end of the day. But same thing, the vinyl sealer will not powder up in the same way to give me that good sanding. Like we're talking about, I like to sand down with the 320 grit, get it really smooth. And then I'll do my touch-ups, my repairs, my toning, color matching. I will seal that all in with a coat of sealer as well, let that dry again overnight and come back with now at that point, a light 320 or even just a sanding sponge.
Yeah. Like a 400.
Yeah. At that point, yeah, I'm using probably a 400 or 500 grit sanding sponge that's been used for the last 6 months. It just gets it more and more polished. And we start all of our sanding sponges at 150 grit. So they'll go through the whole process. They'll do like rough sanding, then they'll go to fine sanding, then they'll go to like first coat sealer, and it's all by the touch. Like that's a lot of it. That's why with this book, it only gives you the beginning of like the restoration process. Up next is the video course that initially I was going to film. We're going to film that here shortly, but that'll give you a lot more long form like answers, questions. Like I'll do more questions and answers kind of on that and I'll go through every chapter of the book. So that way I can explain those things better. Like here's how much you really want to sand. Watch me do it in real time. Like that's the next step in this is the book is your intro. The video course will be, each chapter may be, 5 minutes. Some might be 15. Like we're going to try to do it long form and try to keep it as entertaining, but informative at the same time. So you get the knowledge you want for if you're a home refinisher, you could get all of this at home. I just did that the other day. You don't need the expensive tools. You could start with, I'm going to even do videos here on social media. Eventually, I'm going to go buy the Harbor Freight $15 spray gun and just show people it's in the knowledge, it's in the practices, it's in the materials you use. But the spray gun, it's all in technique. It's all in the technique. I mean, I posted it last night. I have a really nice gun. Bought it, I don't know, I think it's been 10 years ago now. Hated it. It was $500 or $600 for this darn spray gun. I only use it for toners. Like, I don't really like it for my finals. I buy, the less than $200 gun, and I love it. Like, and that's the gun that I've had here now is 15, almost, I think it's 14 years old. I bought it just after I opened the shop. And it's like, as long as you take care of your product or your materials, your tools, you clean them, they're going to last. Like, yeah, they might, even if it was $1,000 for a spray gun, you compound that over 10 years, who cares what it costs per year? Like, it's not a big deal.
Yeah. No,
yeah, a lot of people just don't want to invest in, in their stuff.
And I get it. I mean, my father-in-law was that same way. He would, because you're having people do your work. I get it. But you just got to, it's give and take. You got to find what works for you, and you've got to train on it and not switch all the time. But those Mohawk epoxy sticks and color pencils, I mean, I've tried various different ones. No one can touch. I mean, I used to have, I don't want to call it an automotive, but a pretty decent toolbox. And every time we had a local store and they were the only Mohawk dealer. And every time I'd go in and be like, any new sticks? Like epoxy sticks? I mean, I'd buy
new colors.
Every single color. Because when we were doing on-site touch-ups of finished cabinets, I mean, I could almost every time blend a color, or they had a color that almost matched the color that I was doing dang near perfectly. And those pins that you can fill with paint,
color matched. Yeah. Like I said, Mohawk is a touch-up brand.
Yeah, Mohawk is, I mean, they have the market, the touch-up stuff that they have. If you are doing any kind of touch-up, I find anybody that deals with Mohawk. They will have everything that you could possibly need. If you're doing pre-cat, they'll have retarder and aerosol cans, so you can get rid of blushes on site if something happened. I mean, it's just, their touch-up stuff is just out of this world. I love it.
Yeah, that's what we deal with. It's a company called Wood Repair Products. They are the Mohawk rep distributor here. The wife is the owner of them, of the business, or not anymore. I think Mohawk ended up purchasing the Wood Repair name, but the owner, her husband, is one of the big guys in Mohawk. I just talked to another sales rep that moved up to the regional sales rep there. Mohawk's doing a lot of things, I think, behind the scenes, and I think we're going to all be seeing them here pretty soon. Like, they are really going to be. They are known in the industry, but they're not known to the homeowner. And I think that's what their 2025 goal is to be
RPM, right?
RPM now. Yep. Mohawk switched to RPM. Yep. Rebranded, new logos. Like, a lot of things are happening behind the scenes that, like, I'm just getting little whispers of, but it's stuff that they've been talking about for years, and they want to be more well known. Like, they're known in our industry. You go to any furniture manufacturer or distributor, they all have those sticks and touch-up cans. They are known in the industry, like on the trade side, but they are not known for the homeowner. And we used to use Valspar many years ago. Valspar changed, got bought out, I think, by it was a Chinese. Yeah, it was a Chinese company. I forget who it was.
Valspar Wood got bought out by Exalta, which is
Was it that one? Okay, this was 15 years ago. Like, I don't even remember. Maybe longer than that. And but we noticed a difference in the material this was at the piano shop. But now, since we found out we didn't like Valspar anymore. For one, I think it was harder to get because it was off the shelves. But then they rebranded it, so then it kind of came back. But we were already used to using the Mohawk products.
And Mohawks, it's not something that you see every day. So like when you saw it, because like even the shops in Oklahoma that sold it, even here in Texas that sell it, it's not. They don't. I mean, they have a great name in the furniture refinishing world. When it comes into cabinetry, millwork, I don't know why, but they do okay probably in that segment, but not as good as they do in the furniture segment. So it's just not a name that you see very often. I tell people about Mohawk and they're like, who's Mohawk? Like there's still a lot of people that don't even know them.
Yeah,
But
and that's going to change. I think that's going to change. And
rumblings. I don't know. Just from my contacts, PPG is selling their architectural division.
Okay.
Which is all the house paint. And there's been some rumblings that they're in talks with RPM because RPM wants to get into distribution.
And a lot of them are interconnected too. Like they all know. I had one of the reps hit me up. This is how he introduced himself to me. I posted something like, "Hey, don't buy this junk," and it was stuff at Home Depot, and buy this stuff from Mohawk, and it was just a basic reel. But he hit me up like, "Hey, I just want to let you know that there are people behind the scenes that that they help formulate that for the stuff you see in Home Depot." I go, "Oh, I didn't know that." So I was like, "All right." Like I go, they all work with the chemists are all friendly. Like there's probably a very few amount of people that are manufacturing the chemicals.
I like to say the coatings world is a very incestuous community.
Yeah, I've heard you say it before on the podcast for sure.
I mean, everyone's just all intertwined. I mean, even now there's a bunch of stuff going on behind the scenes of people switching companies and quitting and going to other ones. And they've been, I mean, it seems like about every 3 years, everyone's just like tag.
One gets poached to another one. Then that spot has to get filled. Well, they're going to poach it from a lower part of another company. Then that one's going to have a vacancy. Like I said, it's all like it's a very small market. I mean, and I love seeing that you having this podcast and how busy you've been with it. There's so many finishers out there, and you don't realize like that there's just say 10 of them that are good in every like metropolitan area. So like you got, San Francisco, like, you are in Oklahoma, Dallas, like there's people in all these industries. There's more, there's the customers are in between all of them. You can, like I said, you could branch yourself out.
Oh yeah. You can go anywhere in this industry. That's the great thing. Like, from a guy who concrete and tile construction his whole life, bought into the painting business, was, did that very well. Then I went into the manufacturing side and loved that. Learned a bunch of new people. You could go into the chemistry side, the manufacturing, raw materials. I mean, there's just, if you get bored with one segment of this industry, the next one may completely change your outlook and it'll be completely different.
For sure. And that's why I like listening to the podcast. Like, I mean, I wear headphones here at the shop. I'm in the spray booth. Like, for one, it's noise canceling, so you don't hear that echoing of the spray booth for hours. But I go, you've had so many different people on the podcast. But I kind of laugh because I haven't heard them. The ones that I've started listening to maybe 3 or 4 months ago. I haven't heard any restoration people, like furniture people. I haven't heard a lot of them. So it was like, well, we could discuss that, that in this, what we've been talking about for the last hour or so. It's a very hard niche, like market. If you're a woodworker, it does not mean you're going to be a good finisher. Like I have had so many woodworkers come here, but they don't have the patience to watch paint dry. Like it really is. Me and Ivan, I don't know if it's because we are like, he's a musician. I've played music in the past. I've done I like filming. I like the patience of filming and editing. And I've grown to like it. Furniture refinishing is you got to find that little thing to just take your mind away from the tedious task of sanding a chair or stripping a piece of furniture. Put a podcast on too that is informative. You want to learn about stocks? Go find stock podcasts. You want to learn about like politics? Go to politic podcasts. You can learn stuff throughout the day working in your shop. Kind of kill two birds with one stone, and that's what I've done. It's like, well, how do I do marketing? I listen to a lot of like Alex Hormozy, Bedros Koulian. I listen to a lot of those podcasters who have $200-300 million a year. Their businesses make. And I figure they give a tip and I go, how can I use that in refinishing? And I'll play with them. Like, okay, they said this, how do I do that for myself? Like, but if I'm just sitting here listening to music all day, it's just mindless and you're not gaining anything. Listen to books, put, audio podcasts or, audio books.
Audible is my jam.
Just always listen, like always be learning. And that's, I'm always learning here with the refinishing. I'm learning new tricks too. I'm slowly learning new tools. I'm branching out myself. And that's the thing. If you're an established refinisher, I've had probably a dozen messages so far with the book, and they go, I never knew this trick. Like, just that alone was worth the $100 for the book. Like, I appreciate that. Just that one little tip, I never even knew that. So, like, always be learning, always be trying to better your skills, and just do better for the customer. That's ultimately what I want to see, is the customers, stop hating tradespeople.
Like, I thought it was always interesting. Well, when your book you talk about, and then, I don't want to keep too much longer, and I gotta go get.
Yeah, I got a delivery
school,
too here, and we got 5 minutes. You're good.
So what's interesting is when you're talking about cleaning and doing all that stuff. I always use number 4, or I called it 4-aught or superfine steel wool in polishing, because it polishes very well. You can polish stone with it. You can actually clean cabinets with it. But number 2, I've stripped a whole pool table for a customer, and SOS pads or nylon brushes. And I'm reading that and I'm like, why didn't I ever just use number 2 steel wool?
Yeah, like move it up a little bit. And it has to be number 2. Like, everyone, like when we had a supplier locally, like he'd bring the wrong one. Number 3 was a little too coarse, and number 1 clogs up real easily, and you're wasting a lot of material just throwing money down the drain. So, like, same thing. It's these little tips that I have learned over the 20 years that a new person is like, why didn't I think about that? Like, how we labeled one of them was, how do we label the drawers when we pull them out of the cabinets? Well, we test fit them. We make sure that they don't have factory marks. A lot of the mid-century furniture will have either numbers, letters, or even like a triangle written on the back of the drawer.
The stamps, yeah.
And you'll know which one it is. Well, then once you have it right, we will take a number stamp and mark the back 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on. So that way, when it's done, you don't want to do a Sharpie, because what if you get it dipped in the stripper? It's just going to eat that right out of the wood. So I've had it happen. So we're like, okay, let's do better. And like I said, I've done Sharpies, I've done all of those. Now we're like, okay, the stamp is the better option, and it looks more factory, factory made. That's what you would see from a manufacturer. Let's just try to bring it back to that. Like, we are still respectful to the people who have built these pieces. It's the same reason I really want to do medallions or with like names or logos and put them inside like a drawer that we restore for maybe a $10,000 dresser. But I'm also true to, I don't want to put something that wasn't there originally, even though I want to put my name on this because I'm really proud of this restoration. But I go,
you want to burn it like in the drawer, but you're that's not.
I would love to burn it, but I'm not building new slab tables like I see everyone do. I go, like, that's what I want to do, but I'm like, I even thought, what if I just do it on the back of the dresser drawer? You'll never see it, but the next refinisher will know I did it. But I go, even then, I don't want to ruin the originality to it. Like, we are still purists in that way.
That's not restoring.
Yeah, exactly. It was like that's why, like, maybe we've thought about it, like putting like a double-sided tape logo on. It's not going to ruin it, but we still, like I said, it's still in the works. I don't want to ruin it, but I also want to be, I want my business to be recognized 30 years from now when it gets restored again. I've had pieces from like the 1800s. It'll have somebody from it'll say 1920. It'll say a refinishing shop. It'll be like a business card tucked inside. I go, that's so cool. Like, I want to do that someday in the future to like, and especially now with the internet, like they could type in Moore's Refinishing, Garden Grove, and all my content will pop up. The internet is forever. Just remember that, people. Like, it's forever. So whatever you put on there, like, it's going to be there. That's why I don't do dancing videos. Like, I gotta stay true to who I am. And like I said, it's just more about like the legacy of the brand. That's why I named it Moore's Refinishing. It's my family name, and I want to honor that name. And that's we've gone through all the way in the beginning. We went through a lot of those. Do we go just like, just some, one of them was Bling Bling Refinishing. We're like that's a good name, but you just like no, I don't want anything stupid or catchy. I go, let's just put my name on it. Then I'm responsible for the work that comes out. Like, that's easy enough. They'll always know who Moore's is. It's not just a generic name that you could, file bankruptcy, disappear. They'll never know that you did anything wrong. I didn't want that growing into my own business at 23 years old. I didn't want to do that. And I'm glad that we took it this way, because I take a lot more pride in my work, knowing, my family legacy is behind it. And hopefully now, like with the book and with all this online stuff, I hope I train people, in the future, that want to do this and get better than me. That's my goal, is as your mentor, I want you to do better work than I do. Like that's the ultimate, thank you. Like I really want them to, to
Yeah, I want them to
succeed.
outperform you. That means you did something. Yeah.
Yeah.
I would agree.
I'm going to
100%.
still be doing it for a while. So you got a while to catch up to me, but one day when this slows down, or I give up the baton a little bit to, to my right-hand man or anything like that, like maybe I get into more of the teaching full time and doing that. Like, I want the people to be doing these $40,000 pieces. Maybe my biggest pride right now, I'm going to go see it again on Monday and move it, is that $180,000 wall unit we installed for an art gallery. I go, that's my like pride and joy. So it's like, I want those kind of things to be done like by someone else. Like someone else could do that in a different country, a different state. And New York is a great place because there's a bunch of art galleries there that are doing the same thing. Miami the same way. Like there's a lot of people that need restoration, artisans, I guess is the best way to describe it. And like, buy the book, join my school community, and you can learn 20 years of knowledge in a few hours by reading through this whole book.
There you go. If you guys haven't checked out his book, you got to go check it out. Send me your links. I'll put those down in the description of the podcast so people can get to your school community, as well as maybe pick up a copy of the book. Man, awesome talk, Aaron. It was a lot of fun talking to you. We might have to get on here in the future and do a little more in-depth book/finishing talk, and maybe we'll convert you over to polyurethane.
Hey, I use polyurethane here in the shop every once in a while, but it has to be requested. And we'll use a lot of the conversion varnish too. So we do use other products. Spar varnish we've used a few times on some boat material, boat products. So like we just go to, like, we're known for the refinishing for these mid-century pieces. That's what we're known for, and that's what the people request when they come in. I just want that finish.
That warm look. It's got a warm look, but
it does, and it only gets warmer over time. And I said that's why we stick with it, and that's because of the way we've branded. The people see it on Instagram and they want the same product. So like, there's no reason to branch out. And like I said, we'll get people that'll come to us. You could teach me more about the 2Ks and some more of the Centurion products. Like I still want to know how to use them and use them well, because you never know what somebody might come in with.
Well, I mean,
day.
You just never know what, and I tell people all the time, like, you start expanding, same thing with expanding and learning new techniques for the refinishing or for the restoring. You could add another tool to your tool belt on understanding solvent-based 2K polyurethanes, or water-based 2K polyurethanes that might secure you the next, refinishing piece where they want it to be all eco-friendly, or all zero VOC products. That
I've had those requests as well, 100%, and I deny them because I don't know them well enough, and I don't want to give you a product that I'm not a over promiser. I'm not going to just tell a person, we'll use zero VOC and lie to them and use VOC. And so it's like, if I don't know how to use it, I find, maybe call the Mohawk company, find out what water-based they have, get a recommendation for someone who uses that. Because I stick to my lane. I do what I do well, and I don't really venture off. I mean, and you were saying that too. It's like, it reminded me just one last thing before we go, is like buying the book, learning these skills, learning stuff from you and all the other people that are on this podcast. You can go into so many different trades. You can, with the same skills here, you can go into auto body, staircase refinishing, cabinet restorations, and in-house floor refinishing, outdoor gates, garage doors. You could be a strictly touch-up and repair specialist and introduce yourself to furniture stores all over your neighborhood and come in and do repairs from stuff coming in from China, from Taiwan, Malaysia. You could fix all those pieces of furniture, but it all starts, like, you just have to start by learning the basics, and that's a lot of what you got to learn, the foundation. Yeah, and that's where it's like that. I say that on Instagram a lot. Like, there's so many different trades you can go into with these skills. Mine is very particular, on top of like what you hear a lot on this podcast with just refinishing like cabinets and interior stuff. we're working on little pieces of furniture, like this fine tuning things, because it's a different animal to deal with than cabinets. And I don't like doing cabinets. I don't like going to customers' homes. I like to be in my home shop. This is where I'm here more than I'm at home. So I go, this is where I want to be. I don't want to be stuck in a home with, you always forget one tool or one material. And I go, I'm going to stick to this lane. But now I want to teach people, like, there's so many other options out there that you could get into any type of wood refinishing or restoration,
100%.
Yeah. Like, so there's so many different options you have to go. And like I said, I just want everyone to be successful. Like, that's really my dream for this is learn from me, help me be successful. And then, I want to teach you and guide you, like you're starting your coaching program. I want to do that someday once, things settle down for me a little bit. And I want to give all the information.
It is a lot of fun. I mean, I'm right there with you. That was me. Everything I've learned over my 15 plus years between manufacturing and application and running a business, there's just such a need. Just go help people. I've had my time. I like doing this. I like teaching and helping people learn new ways to do a project is just extremely fulfilling when it clicks and you can see it when you're talking to them like this on a meeting, and then all of a sudden it just clicks and you're just like, you got it.
Yep. I've had it a few times, and I'm still, like I said, I'm not just getting started with that portion, but I had a girl last night hit me up on Instagram saying, I read the book. I'm following the book on my next restoration. I'll let you know how it goes. Later in the day, I followed every step, and this is the best looking piece I've ever had. And that's awesome. Well, see, you follow. I was like, I got goosebumps again right now. I go, that just makes me so happy to see someone follow what I just taught, because that's what I was aiming for. Is like, let's take an average refinisher and show them there's just a few little steps you do that will take it from a basic restoration to just something like that belongs to in a museum or an art gallery. Like, there's just a few little things, and that's the toughest part. It's hand sanding. It's really getting into it. A lot of effort, a lot of elbow grease. But I go, when you sit back and look at it, you're like, there's no swirl marks. There's no, like, the grain has a clarity to it. Like, because we'll do that on the next podcast. We'll go into like the techniques and all that.
Yeah. I want to get on again. We'll do another one on, because I think a good one on the sanding techniques that you talk about in the book are a lot of forgotten stuff that I think it would benefit a lot of guys for sure.
All the old school things that I learned from my mentors, and like you're hearing it from me because they're not around to do it anymore. So like I'm still old school. I started in 2004, not in 2020, like so many people. So I've seen a lot of things. I've messed up a lot of products. We can go into that too in the next podcast, some failures and things not to do. Because we all screw up. I get a lot of people on the internet now asking me why don't I post things when we screw up? I go, we don't really mess up anymore. The steps we take, the materials we use, we don't have chemical reactions. We don't have adhesion issues anymore. We come to work, we do our job, we go home. Like, that's why I wanted to put that out there in the book, is follow these steps. If you have an issue, call me, because I can guarantee you skipped a step somewhere in this process. Because there's the things I teach you in the book are going to give you like a flawless finish with zero headache. Like, that's what I'm aiming for.
That's impressive.
That's what I'm hoping. And I got the first glimpse of that last night with the message here on Instagram.
Shoot out your socials real quick so everyone can make sure they're following you if they're not already.
Main one is Instagram. That's my biggest following. That's Moores_refinishing. You could find my business page at mooresrefinishing.com. Or you could go look at the book website, which is where I'm going to have the coaching and the teaching, and the school community is all there, is reviveandrefine.com.
Revive and Refine. Yeah, we'll put those down there in the description as well. Again, Aaron, I appreciate it. Awesome talk. Let's talk offline and get on for another one, maybe after the first of the year, and get some specialty ones going. Thank you, everybody, for listening. I appreciate you. Every Monday, new episode coming out. Make sure you're following, and we will see you next week.
And that's a wrap on this episode of the Bearded Finisher Podcast. We thank everyone for joining. Keep hustling, keep learning, and never settle for anything less than your best. Remember, the path to perfection is a journey, not a destination. Until next time.